Lesson 13, the Reformation. In this lesson, we focus on what we call the 3 C's. The causes of the Reformation, the course of the Reformation, and the consequences of the Reformation. In the course of the Reformation, when you read how Martin Luther came up with ideas different from the traditional church ideas, you need to understand those concepts in order to see how he developed his own ideas. So the first thing that the lesson is going to present to you is the causes of the Reformation. And there are many different causes. There are political, religious, social, etc. So as you analyze those causes, you are going to come always to one person. You know who this is, Martin Luther. Martin Luther, he happened because of the time when he lived, because of the conditions of the church at the time, because of the humanist movement that existed all across Europe, because his own personal problems. He was the person who was going to cause this great movement that is called the Reformation. He just happened to be where he needed to be. And also, the Reformation happened because other historical figures lived exactly at that time. If the Pope, who was the Pope at the time, had been a different person, the Reformation maybe would not have happened. If the humanist movement had not been so strong, perhaps the Reformation would not have happened. If Tetzel, the enemy of Martin Luther, who happened to be doing something that was very corrupt, had not been doing it at that time, perhaps the Reformation would not have happened. But everything happened at the same time, and Martin Luther was just there. So, as you analyze the causes, you are going to see that Martin Luther, because of all those conditions that we were discussing, was the one who had to initiate the movement. And once the movement began, it could not have been stopped. So, how did it begin? Historians say that the Reformation began when Martin Luther posted his thesis on the door of the Church of Wittenberg. Now, some revisionist historians have said, no, it really didn't happen. It didn't happen that way. He mailed his thesis. But whatever happened, historians continue to say that Martin Luther posted his thesis, and that's how the Reformation began. So that's where we are going to stay. And the movement did not stop because of what we were talking about before, because the conditions were such that once the movement started, there were too many people who wanted to follow it, and it could not be stopped. So what I'm going to ask you to analyze carefully is these doctrinal differences that once Martin Luther decided to separate from the Catholic Church, what are the points that he very strongly decided that he disagreed with and he was going to change. As you see here, justification, that's the term that means salvation, and religious authority. Those two are the ones that were the key points for his movement. But all the others that you see on the screen, transubstantiation, the concepts of the sacraments, the idea of celibacy, all those are also changes that Martin Luther slowly developed, and so his new church was going to be different from the traditional church in all those points. But perhaps the most important one, and the one that the one that made the movement permanent, was this one. So, who has the authority in the church? Well, the traditional church had always said the Bible is the authority, but it is the Pope, the one that has the keys. Remember, the keys to the kingdom of heaven. Remember, we talked about that early during the formation of Christianity. So Martin Luther very clearly said only the Bible is the authority, and people, Christians, are not going to be saved by their actions, but Christians are going to be saved only if they have faith. And Martin Luther very clearly said that is what the faithful should believe. And so this is like the beginning of the new Lutheran church, or at that time was called Protestant church. And also, as his new church is evolving, the service, the traditional mass that was the service of the traditional church, is going to be changed by Martin Luther. And he's going to focus on a few aspects of it. And that's also something that I'm going to ask you to read carefully and to understand. So, Martin Luther then started his movement. He has separated from the church. He has become a Protestant. And the movement is called Protestantism. But what is important is that there are many different aspects apart from the religious one that get involved in this Reformation movement, and that's why it's so complicated to understand it, because we have to deal with social issues, we have to deal with political issues, we have to deal with economic issues. Some of the decisions that Martin Luther had to make had to do with financial reasons. If he had not made those decisions, maybe his movement would not have succeeded. So all those have a very important part in the Reformation movement. So the religious issues are there, but we have to analyze all the others. And as we analyze the political issues, we need to look at the role of the Emperor, Charles V. The Emperor is very, very powerful. Charles V is the son, the grandson of Queen Isabella and Ferdinand of Aragon. He is powerful at all levels, and he happened to be the enemy of Martin Luther. So he is the one who fought Martin Luther and his Protestant movement, and there are other political issues that I want to look at. Eventually, he lost. As powerful as he was, he had to accept that the Reformation had started and that there was nothing else he could do. And he was so disappointed and so sad that he decided to resign, delegate his power to his son and his brother, and he retired to a monastery and became a monk in the last years of his life. But it's important to see all his family life, his family history, and to understand the power that he had in all this Reformation movement.